Hi friends, my name's Emma and let's talk spooky stuff. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to this half-year breakdown. I find these videos really helpful. Why did I say breakdown? I apologize. I do find these videos helpful because it's nice to have a little recap to find any movies that fell in between the cracks. So that's why I'm not just going to mention the popular ones. I'm also going to give you a list of not what I would say hidden gems, but movies that may have slipped your to watch list or slipped your mind with everything coming out. I want to talk about those movies as well because even if they aren't on my favorites list, I think that they're well worth a watch. And I know a lot of you have very different tastes to me within horror, so it could be your next favorite film. So I'm excited to talk about some of them. But let's start with my top so far of 2022. They are all very different to each other, and there are some surprises in here that I have not spoken about yet. So that is exciting. Obviously, you've been here before. This is not your first rodeo. I'm talking about films where they had their general release in 2022. So some of these films might say 2021, but that is just because they were released at, film festivals and stuff last year. These are all films released in 2022. And of course, as always, please leave me your favorites down below. I want to see if I've missed any. I watched a lot this week to try and make sure I've covered all the bases, but please let me know if there's any movies or TV shows in 2022 that you've been absolutely loving. I'm sure everyone would find that really helpful in the comments. And of course, these are films that I have had access to see. There's a lot of films that aren't out in Australia. I still have not seen Crimes of the Future, The Watcher, Black Phone is got postponed until July. So it's not because I don't love those films, it's just that I don't have the chance to watch them yet, so I can't really put them in there. Who knows what will happen by the end of the year. That's why it's really fun to do these check-ins. But enough intro. I know you hate intros, you're here for the meat. So let's talk about my favorite horror movies so far for 2022. And these are just in random order, although I'll let you know which two are in the front running. Starting with one of the front runners, X. If you haven't heard of X, you have to have been living under a rock. This horror thriller directed and written by Ty West is a ride to say the least. This is an A24 film, so it definitely has that X factor, haha. The film follows a cast and crew who get together to make a porno on an elderly couple's rural farm in Texas. But before long, they find themselves in their own film, a slasher movie. This one was filmed in New Zealand, which I love, and of course we know there is a prequel coming out soon. It is just a thrilling adventure and it's layered, which I love. There's a lot going on with these performances and with the messages and meanings, and it's all tied up into this fun slasher film. It's exactly what I want. I'm not even a huge fan of slashers, but I absolutely love this film. Brittany Snow, Mia Goth, it was great. It was great. The next film, which was one of my favorites of this year, is Fresh. This is a comedy thriller directed by Mimi Cave, starring Sebastian Stan and Daisy Edgar Jones. The film is about a woman who is struggling with the modern dating scene until she finds a man she thinks is perfect. I don't want to give away too much if you have not seen Fresh. It has so many different subgenres mixed into one, and it, as I said, it's a comedy as well. So it's kind of like this fresh, oh my god, I need to stop, take on something that's quite disgusting and gory, but told in a very stylish manner. And that's what I really loved about it as well. All the cinematography and the angles, it's just a lot of fun. I think in 2022, we're really enjoying some of the films that are just for fun because we've had so much intense things going on in the world. It's nice to escape through something that feels quite fictional. That's not the case for everything on this list, but it's definitely something I find myself gravitating towards a lot more. Next is a film I have not spoken about too much, and this actually took me by surprise. I mean, all of these do, because I usually go in blind, but Mad God is my next favorite pick for 2022 so far. So this one is a little bit different. It is directed by Phil Tippett. This is a stop animation film that took more than 30 years to make, and most of it had been released prior, just in short segments, but this is the whole film together. I had not seen any of the sequences before. I would categorize this one as surrealism. The film is about a being that descends into a ruined city and explores this labyrinth of bizarre landscapes and interesting characters, to say the least. I was glued to the screen. I thought it was fantastic. I've heard a couple of people saw this at a cinema in film festivals, and I am so jealous. If you get the chance, definitely see this on the big screen. It would be so awesome. But it's not for everyone. It's just this bizarre sequence of visuals, and I just found it fascinating. There's no dialogue or anything like that. It's definitely abstract, to say the least. The film hit Shudder recently, so if you have Shudder, I recommend checking it out, and I hope you like it. Next, another film that took me by surprise. In the first 10 minutes, I thought I was going to absolutely hate this movie, and I stuck it out, and it became such a controversial talking piece, but also became one of the most interesting things I've seen this year. I'm sure you can guess, it is Dashcam. Dashcam, this film has divided us all. Directed by Rob Savage, who did Host. This was a very unlikely follow-up to his other horror film that was also found footage. Dashcam follows one of the most annoying protagonists of all time. She's not really a protagonist at this point, who is live streaming herself during the pandemic, and she goes to the UK to visit a friend where just absolute chaos ensues. I can't say chaos enough. This film should not be called Dashcam. It should be called Chaos. And I've seen so many comments on this, very interesting comments, both sides, loving it and hating it. And it's just resulted in such a discourse. And yeah, I've really enjoyed that. So I can't help it. I like what I like, and I really enjoyed Dashcam. As I said just before, that I really enjoyed films that have really taken me out of the issues in the world. This has really put me back in. But in a very interesting way. I feel like most of us forgot that Scream came out this year. It feels like so long ago, and Scream does get in my top for the year. I definitely had a very interesting experience watching the film because I saw it in a private screening with just me, and then I interviewed the directors. If you haven't seen that video, I don't think a lot of people have seen it. I'll link it down below. So I had a very interesting way of like processing this film by myself, and it took a while, but when I saw it a second time, I was able to enjoy it a lot more than have that pressure on me from that original screening. Although I'm not one of those people who think this is a perfect film, I was just so happy to be in the fandom when it came out, and it has like a really good memory for me. And of course, the brutality of it all. The newest Scream film, and the only one that does not involve Wes Craven. Scream 2022 takes place 25 years after the streak of brutal murders that shocked a quiet town, and now there's a new Ghostface on the loose. A group of teenagers come together with the original cast to figure out who Ghostface is this time and stop him in his tracks. Of course, Gale Weathers. How could you not say that's one of your favorite things of the year? Seeing Gale Weathers on screen, absolutely love it. And also any film that makes me cry, horror movie that makes me cry when I go and see it in the cinemas. Thank you. Why am I thanking? Thank you so much, because I really enjoy having those intense reactions to films. That's why I go and see movies, to feel something. So yeah, Scream does get in my favorites, believe it or not. The next film is a movie I talked about briefly a couple of months ago, and I saw it online as part of a festival. Then it got a wider release recently, and a lot of people have asked me about it. It's The Innocents. When I spoke about this film, which I think was like in a hidden foreign horror movies video, I talked about how intense it was, and it is one of the most disturbing films I've seen this year, which, you know, clocks it up on my list. I'm a big fan of dark cinema, and this movie is no exception, and it really will catch you off guard. This is a Norwegian horror thriller, and is about a group of children living in an apartment complex who start to realize their own power within without adult supervision. I might sound cryptic. It definitely sounds cryptic, but this film, oh my God, it's terrifying, absolutely terrifying, and really realistic. I know that's a weird thing to say because it kind of has a fantasy element, but the way it's put together is just unnerving in a way that foreign horror movies just get spot on. It really gets under your skin, and it's something completely original and new, and it really tackles some interesting subject matter. There is animal cruelty in it that was appalling, but it is just a movie. So I just wanted to let you know in case you're sensitive to that. Highly recommend checking out The Innocents if you're into dark cinema, and especially foreign horror. The other frontrunner for my favorite horror movie of the year, along with X, is you won't be alone. Why do I say like that? I have the Australian inflection, sorry. Speaking of foreign horror, this one takes place in 19th century Macedonia, where a young girl who spends her life in squalor is then kidnapped and transformed into a witch. I cannot even explain the reaction I had to this film. I laughed, I cried, I died inside. It's just so intense and so well done, and such a journey, adventure horror that is not, I mean, it's not one of those films that are really, really scary, but the thought of it and just the journey that you go on with this character is something that sticks to you and just really gets under your skin. And if you watch it, that's definitely a pun. The film is just so special and shows a unique representation of this kind of folklore and witches, and it's just done in a very special and different way. If you like kind of slow burns, I wouldn't say the film is super long. It does run for an hour and 48 minutes, but it feels like it could have just gone on forever, and I would have watched it forever. I loved this movie so much. The Journey, highly recommend. Highly, highly recommend. Yeah. The performances are absolutely fantastic, and there are some stranger elements with, I guess, special effects makeup, but you definitely give them a pass because everything else, like the storytelling, is just spot on. It's absolutely magic. It's lightning in a bottle, and I highly recommend it. And then my last favorite so far in 2022, before I get into some underrated films, is Men. I know that this film is very controversial. I did not realize that when I did my review, because I don't read or, look at anyone else's opinion before I form my own. And a lot of people are very mad at this film. Very surprised by that. I think that the title really put a lot of people off. And I'd urge you, I saw a lot of people in my comment section saying that they won't watch it because of the title. And I urge you, just watch it and make up your own mind before you start saying how bad it is if you haven't seen it. I don't know if that's obvious, but I'd recommend that. This, of course, is Alex Garland's new drama horror sci-fi. This is an A24 film, and it's about a woman who goes to escape her demons to an English countryside, but she soon finds that she is not alone. Cinematography, spot on. I saw a lot of people did not like the special effects, which is one of the things I love the most about this film. I thought it was beautiful, and the sound, and I just love the layered story and the symbolic nature of it. I thought it was beautiful and really well put together. But of course, like everything on this list, it's not for everyone. I like some very different films, obviously, you can tell, and this one just gave me something fresh that I was looking for, some darkness, some fresh darkness. So I was very much into that. But let's talk about some films that may have slipped through the cracks, you don't really have on your radar, just some recommendations if you're looking to form your own list of what your favorite films are this year. Here's some kind of like catch-up films that you should probably consider. First, we have Hatching, which is a Finnish body horror. A lot of people love this one, and for the special effects and puppeteering that was done. It's a really interesting story about the kind of pursuit of perfection, and it centers around a family and a girl who's trying to please her mother. One day she finds this egg of all things and brings it home, but when it hatches, what's inside is absolutely terrifying in the best way possible. The next one I found on my Spanish kick, and this is more of a thriller, but if you're into dark cinema, you'll love this one. You'll absolutely love it. It's a journey thriller film that has a really good payoff. The Daughter is about a pregnant teenager who comes to a tense agreement with a couple who are sheltering and looking after her. Can't say anymore. Go into it blind. Great movie. So intense. And if you don't think it's intense, it's kind of slow moving at the start. If you don't think it's intense, you just wait. Just hold on. The payoff is worth it, trust me. It's definitely one of my favorite thrillers I've seen of the year. Speaking of thrillers, this one's kind of like a thriller, psychological, anxiety-driven movie. All My Friends Hate Me. This British film is billed as a comedy horror, and it's about this poor dude who has this reunion at this estate with his friends for his birthday weekend, but he feels like everyone's against him, and it's one of those slow moving kind of anxiety driven films where all the subtleties you pick up on and you're not really sure, is he crazy? Are they crazy? What is going on in this situation? If you have anxiety, this will trigger it, but it's a really enjoyable watch how it captures that. You Are Not My Mother is an Irish psychological horror film. If you're into kind of folklore creature feature esque things, this is the one for you. It has some really dark moments and really good imagery. It's about a girl whose mother briefly goes missing, and when she returns, she does not seem like herself. If you're looking for a good independent horror film, I really recommend Shut In. It surprised me. The movie is about a young mother who is barricaded inside her pantry by her violent ex-boyfriend. It's such an intense ride about abuse and substance abuse. And then it's also this survival film with a time crunch because she needs to protect her two children who are on the outside. It's a pretty well put together film and a really good independent thriller horror. For people who are looking for a fun movie but thought it might be too goofy, I really do recommend checking out Studio 666. Of course, this just came out before the unfortunate death of band member Taylor Hawkins, which was just heartbreaking, but the film is just a lot of fun, and if you're looking for something that's more lighthearted, this is it. Especially if you like B-grade kind of horror movies, it's really taking the mickey out of that, although a lot of the humor does revolve around the band themselves and some in-jokes. It's still a lot of fun for just a silly horror movie that is about possession and splatter and all that good stuff. The movie is about the Foo Fighters who record their much anticipated 10th album in a haunted house. If you are a fan of independent cinema and witchy films, Hellbender has you covered. This is a really interestingly put together film that has amazing visuals. It follows a lonely teenager who discovers her family ties to witchcraft. If you're into those kind of coming of age but coming to realization films, this one is for you. It is a little bit rough around the edges, but the cinematography and the acting, superb. And then of course, one that's just hit Netflix in Australia, I'm not sure if it's in other countries, but it's on Netflix here, is See For Me. If you're into sensory horror, this is the way to go. The film is about a group of thieves that break into this luxurious, secluded mansion that the protagonist, Sophie, happens to be house sitting, but Sophie is visually impaired, so she has to rely on someone she's communicating with through the phone to get out of the situation. But it's not as simple as it sounds. Again, don't want to spoil anything, but definitely check it out because I think a lot of you will really love it. So that's my list for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know down below if you have anything you want to add. If this is your first time seeing a Spooky Astronauts video, hi, my name's Emma, and I do 2 videos every single week talking about horror movies, talking about thrillers, and putting a lot on your to watch list. I'd love for you to subscribe and hang out with me so we can talk horror and I can give you some recommendations. I hope you're having a fantastic day and I'll talk to you all very soon. Stay safe and stay spooky. Bye, friends.